Namaskar and welcome back to Media Scan, your weekend dose of headlines, controversies and perspectives. Elections for 5 states assemblies kicked off with the first phase of polling in Uttar Pradesh this week. Campaigning too is more colourful now, with the Election Commission relaxing some of the norms. But the hijab row grabbed more media attention than any other issue all through the week and continues to do so. I have special guests this evening who will help us understand what the whole controversy is about. But first up, what made news? With polling completed in 58 seats of Western Uttar Pradesh on Thursday, the 5 state elections are now in full fervour. Campaigning, though still restricted, has also picked up as the Election Commission relaxed curbs on gatherings. Road shows, bike rallies, etc. are still not allowed. Meanwhile, in a detailed interview, Prime Minister Narendra Modi claimed there was an atmosphere of pro-incumbency all over UP and the BJP would be winning all 5 states. Whereas the BJP, Samajwadi Party and Congress, all 3 have come out with their manifestos this week. The Congress also ended the suspense by declaring that its incumbent Chief Minister Charanjit Channi would be the CM candidate in Punjab. Launching a blistering attack on the Congress party, PM Modi remarked that the party had adopted the divide and rule policy of the British rulers and now become the leader of the Tukre Tukre gang. He also accused the opposition of worsening the COVID situation during the first wave by egging migrant workers to leave for their home states. PM Modi was replying to the motion of thanks debate in Lok Sabha. He continued the no-holds-barred attack in Rajya Sabha too and said Congress leaders had now an urban Naxal mindset. A 3-judge bench of the Karnataka High Court has asked students to go back to classes and not wear any religious dress till it adjudicates on the vexed issue of wearing hijab inside classrooms. The controversy snowballed over the week as girl students refused to comply with the authorities in few pre-university colleges in the state. This was followed by protests in many cities and counter-protests of other students who donned saffron shawls. State government had to shut down the colleges to restore peace. The High Court bench will continue hearing from Monday but has ordered schools to be opened. As political parties and activists jumped into the controversy, we will examine this whole issue this evening in just a few moments. Following a huge reaction from Indians on social media, car manufacturer Hyundai India issued a statement deeply regretting any offence caused to Indians. Controversy had erupted when a social media post from Hyundai Pakistan supporting what it called the struggle for freedom in Kashmir. Hyundai claimed that the post was issued by an independently owned distributor in Pakistan and the company was against such policies. Meanwhile, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar tweeted about his telephonic conversation with his South Korean counterpart, where this issue was also raised. Nation woke up to the shattering news of the demise of Lata Mangeshkar on Sunday. She was given a tearful adieu the same evening as generations of her fans tried to come to terms with the loss. The government declared a 2-day state mourning as a mark of respect. Messages are still pouring in from music lovers all over the globe. Bharat Ratna Lata Mangeshkar may have departed, but her music lives on. So those were some of the headlines you saw dominating the media space through the week. Viewers, what started with half a dozen female students of pre-university level in a college in a town in Karnataka has now become a national issue of debate, of discussion, of controversy, and now even global activists and people from other countries, especially our Western neighbor, are trying to jump into the controversy. It was about, as I said, half a dozen PU class girls who wanted to join their classrooms wearing their hijab, which the school authorities objected to. They were told that there is no restriction on wearing what they would want to wear, but they must take off the hijab when they enter the classroom, as has been the practice. Some organizations who claim to be working for the welfare of students jumped into the fray. It led to protests by the students who were adamant on joining their classrooms wearing the hijab. This led to protests and reactions from the second section of students who said the school uniform and discipline must be adhered to strictly. Otherwise, they will come to class wearing shawls of a different color, saffron stoles, because they are against this idea of giving a choice. That in turn became a political issue because one of India's national party's leader and the woman leader of another regional party tweeted, twisting the debate from that of the classroom into a question of choice of clothes a woman should or should not wear, which in turn, as expected, prompted some global activists to jump into the fray, and a question of whether or not to wear the hijab during the classroom while studying has now snowballed into a question of what women should or should not wear, and it does not even stop there. It is now a question of religious freedom of people in a country, and looks a bit rich when it comes from a country which has, where the population of the minority is almost completely decimated. Be that as it may, the controversy continues to hog the headlines full time. A petition was filed in the court, in fact more than one petition, which was then referred to a larger bench in the Karnataka High Court. As of now, the court in its wisdom has said that this involves some constitutional issues. Therefore, the hearing will carry on perhaps for a longer time. Meanwhile, the bench has asked the state government to open the schools and colleges which were shut down during these protests, but students must refrain from wearing the hijab or any other religious markers till such time as a clear order comes from the court, which includes the prayer for an interim order to wear the hijab. I am sorry, but that looks like too many questions being put up at one time, but that is how it is. And therefore, if you think there is too much being pulled into it, there are too many issues being thrown on a simple question of which could have been resolved perhaps in a day or two, then to help you better understand the whole issue, I have two very special guests here with me who will help us step by step to understand what's going on and also what it means for the social fabric, for the freedom and the life of the people in our country. Allow me to welcome my first guest for the evening, Zakia Soman. You have heard her on TV regularly, read her in the newspapers. She is not only working for the welfare of women in the society, particularly women from the Muslim community, she is also the co-founder of the Bharatiya Muslim Mahila Andolan, an organization which has been spearheading to make life more equitable, better and more empowered for our Muslim women. Welcome to Media Scan, Zakia Soman, and I hope with you on the show, we are going to have a fruitful discussion.
Thanks, Smita ji. Thanks for the kind words.
My second guest for the evening, another very vocal, well-known Muslim activist. She has been known to speak her mind on various occasions, including on this show, on Media Scan, on earlier episodes. Allow me to welcome Amber Zaidi, filmmaker, social activist, and also a well-known media voice, a strong media presence on the social media. Welcome back to Media Scan, Amber Zaidi.
Thank you so much, Smita, for having me again on your show and giving me a chance to express my views on your prestigious show.
Great to have you again, Amber. And may I start with Zakia Soman first. Ms. Soman, as you may have heard and you have been following it, the whole issue very diligently, you know that what started with the question of whether or not the girls could wear that hijab into the classroom is now becoming a question where a lot of constitutional issues, including issues of religious freedom, have been thrown into the debate. Before I come to those larger questions one by one, my first and foremost direct question to you, Ms. Soman, for the benefit of our readers, viewers. What, according to you, is the core issue here?
I found your opening remarks very interesting, Smita ji. And in a manner of speaking, you have referred to a lot of the core issues which are at play here. So, first and foremost is about the right to education of the girls, which is a fundamental right granted by the Constitution. And this whole question of right to religious freedom and expression in terms of dressing being part of it, that is another dimension here. And I think the second and the most important dimension here is also about the fact that we are a multi-faith society, the fact that we are a secular democratic country, and the kind of politics of religion which is going around all, and it is engulfing all of us into its fold. So there are two or three key issues here, and you were very right when you said that it was what could have been or what must have actually been a small matter of discipline within an educational institute, which could have been sorted out much ago, has now exploded into, I'm sorry to say, it has exploded into some kind of a full-fledged conflict, between Hindus and Muslims, and a lot of political organizations, a lot of religious organizations, again on the both sides, jumping into the fray. And in all this, the most important part is the education of the girls that is being forgotten. And this blanket holiday, it has led to a blanket holiday across all schools and colleges in Karnataka. The students have barely resumed their studies now after COVID, 2 years after COVID, and yet again we have closed them. So I think there are two or three dimensions, and for anybody, Smita ji, there can be a lot of politics going on, and it
Okay,
will go on.
allow me a brief cross question here, Ms. Soman. We all share your concern about the worries that it is the way it is impacting the education in the state, and there have been protests have spilled over to other states. So nobody would really want this to snowball any further. However, when you speak about the right to education, ma'am, clearly there is no question on the right to education. I mean, nobody has hampered the education or the right to education of those girls. Why do you think the question of right to education comes into play here, if it does?
Yeah. So see the in a way the crux of the matter is that the parents would not allow the girls to go to school without hijab, and the school will not give them entry into the classroom because of hijab. So these kind of hardened and very polarized two sides, ultimately is the girls' education which is suffering. So this is the point I want to make, Smita ji, that away from the arena of politics and away from the compulsions of political parties and their electoral strategies and all, we as ordinary Indians, we may be Hindus, we may be Muslims, we may be Christians, we need to look at this issue in a very humane, and if I may say so, in a very long-term and very judicious manner. Do we want to, do we want this thing to continue escalating? And do we want, the future of our kids, the future of our daughters, and thereby the future of our society and the future of our country to be sort of, caught up in these kind of religiously polarized
All
violence?
right, point taken, ma'am. Point taken here. You are saying that this may not be about the right to education per se, but if the school insists on the hijab and the parents are also not, of the mindset who will allow these girls to come to classes taking off the hijab, then it may ultimately impact their right to education. Now, that is also one of the questions that is within the purview of the court petitions, and I'm sure in their wisdom the judges will be coming to a conclusion soon, as they have already indicated about it. But allow me to bring in Amber Zaidi here. Amber, Ms. Soman was rightly pointing out that away from the political connotations of the whole debate, we must look at it, we must see how to resolve it in the interest of our students, and rightly so. However, the fact remains that a lot of politics has been pulled into it here. We have the tweet of the woman leader of a national party who made it the question of girls being allowed to wear whatever dress they want, even though it was on the limited point of the classroom, conveniently forgetting the fact that her own party had denied Shahbanu the right to maintenance by bringing a law which upturned the order of the apex court of the country forthwith. On the other hand, we have the regional leader of another regional party telling us that governments have no business to tell us what to wear. Clearly, there is no actual ban on the hijab. It is only on the question of the classroom. Then the Prime Minister also, while speaking in Saharanpur, he remarked that this government has been working to alleviate the life and to alleviate the life and bring equality in the lives of our Muslim women. Clearly, he said that the opposition is unnerved by these moves, and so they are trying to mislead our women students, particularly from the Muslim community. In the midst of all this politics, Amber, what do you think should be done at this point of time, and why do you think it is causing so much political heartburn? Are there more issues involved? Why is the Campus Front of India, there are reports saying that their leaders are coming to have a dialogue with the school authorities. Why not speak directly to the parents? Why is the Campus Front or such other institutions trying to make it a global question of religious freedom in India?
Actually, Smitaji, in the very beginning, when this whole issue erupted on social media, and then later on into the mainstream media, and then that video went viral on social media. That girl, hijabi girl Muskan,
Yes.
was in the video. She was a group of boys was they were shouting the slogans of Jai Shri Ram, and then in retaliation she shouted Allahu Akbar. That video went viral. After that, in the beginning it was looking like an issue of hijab. They were protesting for their rights supposedly, but when the reports came out, and we found the involvement of CFI, the Campus Front of India, the student wing of PFI. In September 21, they run a membership drive in Udupi College also, and these students, they were involved with CFI. And also they were peddling their agendas on social media like Twitter and other platforms. In December, 6 students, they started coming in hijab in the campus, the PUC students. When the school administration stopped them, they went to the court. And in retaliation, more and more girls started coming in burqa and hijab. They came on road, started slogans and stone pelting and whatnot. We all know that what happened after that. So it's not just a matter of right to education or freedom of choice. It is a simple whole political issue, how it has erupted, and we have found the involvement of CFI, which is the Campus Group of India. We all know that what is the history
Amber,
and their agenda.
we need to bring it down to basics here, because so many issues have now come into play.
Absolutely.
Are you trying to say that it was not really the question of the hijab, even if it might appear to be the immediate trigger for the whole controversy?
If you allow me, with your permission,
Okay.
I'll come back to this question.
Please go on.
But
Please go
I
on.
need to say something in between. But what has happened, see the way the politics it has gone in our country. There is so much religion now in public life. I'm sorry to say this, but we have a chief minister who is a saffron-clad priest. He's been occupying the chief ministerial office 365 days in a year in his saffron robes. So now the French example is totally irrelevant in our context. So we have no problem with that. Then why do we have a problem with the girl in hijab? That is I'm not saying this to further polarize, but I'm saying this to drive some sense into us, human beings, Hindus, Muslims, all of us, to sort of, how to live together and how to go forward. From that point of view, I'm saying this, Smitaji. Now, coming back to your original
Yes.
question, Smitaji, why are these girls doing this? So I, I sort of again urge, all your viewers to kindly for a moment, reflect on the fact that, that particular belt of Karnataka is extremely conservative. It's also, there's a huge population, which is you can say poor. which is backward educationally, socially. And then there are other populations there. There are the Hindus, there are the Christians. There are so many religious and cultural traditions in that region, and the polarization is also there. Because see, very recently the Christmas celebrations were disrupted, Smitaji. We have to keep that in mind. So that means some kind of politics is going on over there in the name of religion. And there are elements in all communities who are doing this.
Okay, fine. So
in that,
I believe Amber wants to come in here on this point.
I'll finish last sentence.
Okay, yes. Okay, please conclude.
The PFI finds lot of the PFI finds. I'm not justifying the PFI actions,
No.
but I'm saying that the organizations like PFI find a lot of recruits in such a climate. So we need to again I'm going back to the same thing, that we need to look at it away from the politics, and as Indians who are steeped into, we may be Muslims or Christians, but we are deeply influenced by the eclectic.
Right. I don't think there are any two views on that, Ms. Soman. But Amber has been waiting to come in. Allow me to bring her up, because I am afraid I have barely 1 minute left on my show. Ms. Soman, allow me to bring in my other guest also. I'm sure we understand your point. Amber, Zakia Soman's contention is that we cannot look at some other countries of Europe, etc., because the Indian situation is not suited, or the society, our people are not suited to that kind of secularism. Also, she believes that there is an element of polarization. But I'll come back to the basic question I had asked her also, and I'm now putting it to you, Amber. Is there heightened radicalization going on among the young men and women folk of the Muslim society? Does it worry you? And if it does, what would you like to tell these girls? How do you think we should avoid more such flashpoints in the future in any part of the country? Because clearly there are some elements who are having a good time out of it, and they would not like it to end, perhaps.
Absolutely, it does worry me. That is the whole idea, and that is why I've been talking here and on different platforms. Because in last few decades, you also because you all are senior to me, you all know that how our previous generation, how they used to be, like Zakia ji, and you also you are sitting like a normal Indian women. We never had a religious identity carrying into our educational institution. As Zakia ji was saying that Yogi ji is carrying his religious identity to parliament. So is Owaisi ji. He wears topi, he carries topi in parliament. But we are talking about the uniform in educational institutions. Nobody wears their religious identity in educational institutions. This is about uniform that we have been following since ages. So that is the whole idea. And if you talk about this infringed mindset that being imposed in our country, that is worrisome. That worries me, because in our country that regressive mind has been imposed in our country. And on the contrary,
so very quickly, Amber, very quickly, I have very little time left. I'm sorry.
Iran,
what would you tell this young Muslim woman not to become, a tool, as Ms. Soman was saying, not to become a tool in the hands of forces who are trying to polarize, but rather look at their own future first, and their families for that matter?
See, as a citizen of India, everybody talks about that this is our constitutional right, this is our constitutional right. Everybody talks about the constitutional right. In that case also, that petitioner mentioned about Article 14 till 25, that this is our constitutional right. With constitutional right comes the responsibility. It's high time that we need to understand and take that responsibility comes with the right. As a citizen of this country, we all need to take that responsibility and act responsible towards our country before anything comes our country. In that particular case, the senior Taliban officials came in support of this hijabi girl, and they extended the support. They said before any country's constitution and culture comes the Islamic values. That's how these girls are getting support from fringe elements. Also, Malala Yousafzai extended her support, who felt extremely uncomfortable in burqa, who herself doesn't wear burqa. So this is the kind of hypocrisy has been going on. The anti-India forces, they get an opportunity to malign the India's image. So
Okay,
we need
Amber,
to understand that.
I believe I get your point, what you are trying to say, and that is exactly what was the purpose of our show here, to dissect those issues which have been thrown in for obvious reasons, and to understand the core issue here, but at the same time, also try to see how it can affect our social fabric and to help prevent that it does not happen so. However, I am afraid I have completely overshot my show this evening, Amber and Ms. Soman, because this discussion was just so important. Allow me to thank both of you here for joining us on such a short notice and trying to explain the issue so well for the benefit of our viewers. Thank you very much, Ms. Zakia Soman, for coming on the show and sharing your perspective. I am sure, ma'am, we will benefit from your views and perspective in future as well. Thank you once again.
Thanks.
And thank you, Amber Zaidi, an old friend and always ready to join Media Scan whenever we have requested her to. I hope we will also have you again, as also Ms. Soman, in the future. Thank you, Amber.
Thank you so much, Smita, for having me.
As you could yourself hear during the discussion, viewers, it's very clear that this vexed issue of the hijab in the classroom or not is now snowballed into many other issues pulled into the controversy. However, as the court is deliberating on the issue, the core issue for the moment remains whether under the constitutional law and the rules prescribed by the state government education department and the concerned institution, these girls may be allowed to have to sit in their classrooms with the hijab on or not. I am sure, as our guest said, the court in its wisdom will arrive at a well thought decision. But until then, perhaps it is time for tempers to cool down, not to bring in more unrelated or larger issues, but rather wait for the moot question to be resolved before we try to blow it up into one another flashpoint. With that, viewers, I'm afraid it's time to wrap up on Media Scan this evening. But do continue to watch DD India, as we shall continue to scan the media for you. Good night.